Now we're moving on to dividing fractions and mixed numbers. We're going to begin with a little bit of vocabulary that you may or may not be familiar with, and that is, what is a reciprocal? Now, reciprocals can help you divide fractions. Two numbers are reciprocals if they have a product of 1. So, for example, the reciprocal of 5/6 is 6/5 because 5/6 times 6/5 is 30/30ths, which equals 1. When we multiply 5/6 times 6/5, you may be comfortable enough to see that they cross cancel and that the 5's share a common factor of 5 and that the 6's share a common factor of 6, so they automatically simplify down to all 1's. 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 1 is 1, therefore your product is 1. Another example of a set of reciprocals would be 1/2 and 2. 1/2 times 2 comes out to look like 1/2 times 2 over 1. And when we multiply them straight across, we can get 2 over 2, which is 1. We could also cross cancel these if we felt comfortable with that. 2 and 2 share a factor of 2. So 2 goes into itself once, goes into itself once. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 over 1 is equal to 1. So we need reciprocals because when we divide by a fraction, we find its reciprocal and then multiply. So here is an example. If I'm dividing 2 by 1/3, then I multiply by 1/3's reciprocal. First, what you will notice is that in my process, I saw this to begin with, and so I changed the division to multiplication and the second fraction or second number to its reciprocal. The reciprocal of 1/3 is 3 over 1. So then I move forward and say, well, 2 is a whole number, so I multiply that using 2 over 1 times 3 over 1, which gives me 6 over 1, which is equivalent to 6. You might be comfortable with also just saying 2 over 1 is 2, 3 over 1 is 3, 2 times 3 is 6. But why is 2 divided by 1/3 6? Well, if I have 2 wholes, and I'm dividing it into 1/3, well, how many 1/3s are there in 2? It's interesting to see that if I break up each of these into thirds, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them in 2. So that might help you to understand why fraction division makes sense. So here are a couple of examples for dividing fractions. The directions say divide to write your answer in simplest form. So I'm beginning with 2/3 divided by 1/5. I want to change division to multiplication and the second fraction to its reciprocal. The reciprocal of 1/5 is 5, or 5 over 1. So when I change this to multiplication, then I will see, well, I'm going to multiply 2 times 5, which is 10, and 3 times 1, which is 3. This gives me 10/3, and 10/3 is simplified, but I might want to change it to a mixed number, and when I do that, I can think of 10/3 as 10 divided by 3. 10 divided by 3, well, 3 goes into 10 3 times, 1 left over, so that's 3 and 1/3. So let's try this one. I have 3/5 divided by 6. Well, I know when I'm working with 6, if I want to work with it as a fraction, I simply put that number over 1. So now it's 3/5 divided by 6 over 1. I want to multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 6 over 1 is going to be 1/6. So I will change 3/5, or change it to 3/5 times 1/6. Now I have a straight up multiplication of fractions problem. And so when I'm comfortable with multiplying fractions, I can say, well, I could cross cancel here, right? And 3 and 6 share a greatest common factor of 3. 3 goes into itself once, into 6 twice, and then I multiply straight across to get 1, and then 5 times 2 is 10. So my answer here is 1/10. Now when I'm dividing mixed numbers, there's something I have to do first before I change division to multiplication, and before I change that second number to its reciprocal. I have to change all mixed numbers, whether it's the first number or the second number or both of them. I change all of them to improper fractions first. That gets it out of the way, then I can change division to multiplication, then I can change to that second fraction to its reciprocal, but not until I change them to improper fractions first. So if I have 4 1/3 divided by 2 1/2, I want to change them both to improper fractions first to make my work so much easier to work with. 4 1/3 turns out to be 13/3 as an improper fraction, and 2 1/2 is 5/2. Notice that I've maintained division. I haven't changed division to multiplication because I don't want to forget what operation I'm doing. Keep your division until you are going to make all of the changes at once. So that's that first step that goes with number 1. Then multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to take 13/3 divided by 5/2 and change that to 13/3 times 2/5. I changed my division to multiplication, and I changed my second number to its reciprocal. Now I can do my multiplication. 13 times 2 is 26. 3 times 5 is 15. And if I wanted to change that to a mixed number, I would divide 26 by 15 to get 1 11/15. So we're going to do some practice here together. We're going to divide and write each answer in simplest form. Well, the first one's done for you, but I want to walk you through the thought process. I have 5/6 divided by 7 1/7. I do have that mixed number here, so it has to be changed to an improper fraction first. 5/6 divided by, well, 7 times 7 is 49, plus 1 is 50, so 50/7. It's still division here. Now that I have just numerators and denominators, I can go ahead and change division to multiplication and change the second number to its reciprocal, 7/50. Once I get to this point, then I can go ahead and do my multiplication. I feel comfortable seeing 5 and 50, and I know that they share a common factor of 5. So I will simplify or cross cancel. 5 goes into itself once. 5 goes into 50 10 times. This helps me with my multiplication. 1 times 7 is 7, 6 times 10 is 60, 7/60 is simplified as far as it can go, so that is my answer. So let's go over here to 4 4/5 divided by 6/7. I have that mixed number, so I must change it to an improper fraction first. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 4 is 24/5 divided by 6/7. I'm keeping the division. Now that I have just numerators and denominators, I can change division to multiplication and change this to its reciprocal. So 24/5 times 7/6. Is there anything I can cross cancel? Well, 5 and 7 do not share a common factor, but 6 and 24 do. 6 and 24 share a common factor of 6. So I can say 6 goes into itself once and into 24 4 times. Now 4 times 7 is 28, and 5 times 1 is 5. This is simplified, but I can go ahead and say 28 divided by 5. Well, I know that goes in there 5 times, and that's 25. 8 minus 5 is 3, so I have 5 and 3/5. Both would be acceptable answers. Example C is 5 2/3 divided by 1 1/4. Both are mixed numbers that we need to change to improper fractions first. 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17/3, divided by 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5/4. Now I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal of 5/4, which is 4/5. Doesn't look like anything will cross cancel for me this time. So I'm going to go with what's easy for me first. Well, 3 times 5 I know is 15. Let's get that out of the way. But 17 times 4, I might have to go off to the side and work that out. So 17 times 4, 7 times 4, 28. 4 times 1 is 4. Plus that 2 is 6. So I have 68/15. So if I wanted to change that into a mixed number, 68 divided by 15, remember fractions and division are the same thing. 68 divided by 15, well, I know 15 goes into 60 4 times. So that's going to be 4, and so that's 60 with 8 left over, 4 8/15. Can 8/15 be simplified? No, it cannot. So that is going to be our solution, either 68/15 or 4 8/15. Our last example is 3/8 divided by 12. Remember, if we're working with a whole number, to turn it into a fraction that we want to work with, just put it over 1. 3/8 times 1/12. And then 3 and 12 share a common factor of 3. So 3 goes into itself once, into 12 4 times. 1 times 1 is 1, and 8 times 4 is 32. So 1/32 will be our answer. And there you have it.